Hey everyone, I am so excited to finally be diving into this topic with you. You've been sending me so much about ChatGPT, it's been blowing up my inbox. Clearly, you're really interested in figuring out what the hype is all about.
Yeah, it really has taken off.
And frankly, I am too. It's not every day a new piece of tech generates this much buzz. I mean, we're talking way beyond just simple chatbots here.
Absolutely.
You know, the thing that really caught my eye was how ChatGPT can write stuff that sounds like an actual person wrote it.
It can be pretty mind-blowing.
It really is. And
Yeah.
the ways people are using it, it's incredible. Businesses are using it for customer service, writers are using it for content creation, and get this, some people are even using it as a study buddy. I mean, come on.
I know, right?
So I asked our expert to join us today because there's just so much to unpack here. We're going to get into some of the technical details, sure. But more importantly, I think what we really want to explore is what this AI revolution means for all of us. You ready to get started?
Definitely, let's dive in.
Okay, so before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I think we need to take a step back for a second.
Okay.
For someone who might be hearing about this for the first time, what exactly is ChatGPT?
Well, imagine, like, having a conversation with a computer.
Right.
But this computer not only gets what you're saying, it can also, like, respond in a way that feels totally natural, like you're talking to another person.
Like a real human.
Exactly.
Right.
That's ChatGPT in a nutshell. It's this AI system that's been trained on just mountains of text data.
Wow.
And that lets it generate text that's often impossible to tell apart from something a human would write.
So it's not just spitting out pre-programmed responses, it's actually like creating something new.
Exactly.
That's wild. You know, in one of the articles you sent me, they described it as being like a knowledgeable assistant available 24/7. Does that analogy hold up?
It totally does. And it's a really helpful way to think about like the potential here because it's been trained on such a massive amount of data.
Right.
ChatGPT can like answer your questions, write different kinds of creative content, even translate languages.
No way.
Yeah. It's like having a giant library in your pocket full of info and expertise ready whenever you need it.
Okay, I am starting to see the appeal. That brings up another question though. In one of your notes, you mentioned this group OpenAI. What's their role in all of this?
Oh, yeah. OpenAI is the company behind ChatGPT. And the cool thing about them is they're not just focused on, building advanced AI. They want to do it in a way that actually benefits humanity.
So they're thinking about the bigger picture, not just the tech itself.
Exactly. And they've got a pretty impressive track record with other AI projects, too, which gives me some confidence.
That's reassuring, for sure. You know, it's fascinating to think about the timeline here. It feels like ChatGPT just kind of exploded onto the scene overnight. How long has this tech actually been around?
It's true. Things move so fast in the tech world, it can feel like things come out of nowhere. But ChatGPT is actually relatively new. It's first released in 2022.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. But what's really remarkable is how quickly it's evolved and become so widely used. It's kind of unprecedented.
Yeah, it feels like everyone's talking about it. Okay, so it's been around for a bit, but how do we measure the impact of something like this? Is there any way to quantify just how popular ChatGPT has become?
There is. One of the craziest stats I came across is that ChatGPT gets over 3 billion monthly visits.
3 billion?
Yeah, 3.1 billion. And to put that into perspective, that's like over half of the entire industry's traffic.
Okay, so we know people are flocking to it, but what are they actually using it for, like in the real world?
Well, you actually mentioned some of the main uses earlier. Like a lot of businesses are already using it to make their customer service better.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it lets them give customers instant support, personalized to their needs, and they don't have to wait for a human to be available.
I can definitely see the appeal there. Who hasn't been stuck on hold with customer service and gotten totally frustrated?
Totally.
Yeah.
But it's not just that. ChatGPT is also being used by writers and marketers to create like all sorts of content. Blog posts, social media updates, scripts, even poetry.
Wait, poetry?
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. It's almost like the line between human creativity and AI is starting to blur,
That's incredible. It's a bit intimidating though, too, right?
Oh, for sure. But that's what makes it so fascinating, right? It's not just a tool to automate things. It's changing how we think about creativity itself. And that's not all. Another really cool application is in education.
Now, this is something I was really curious about. I saw you had a whole section highlighted in one of the articles about how ChatGPT could be used in education.
Oh, yeah. It has a huge potential to, totally transform the way we learn.
How so?
Well, think about it. It can explain complex concepts, it can make practice questions, it can even give personalized feedback.
Wow.
It's almost like having a personal tutor available 24/7, ready to help you with any subject.
Okay, so it's not just about getting quick answers, it's about really understanding the material, right?
It's about making education accessible, personalized, engaging, empowering students to learn at their own pace and in a way that works best for them. And honestly, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Wow. Okay. We've covered a lot of ground already, but I feel like we're just getting started. What I'm really trying to wrap my head around is like the significance of all this. Why is ChatGPT such a game changer?
That's a great question. I think because it represents this huge shift in how we interact with technology. Like for decades, we've had to adapt to how computers work, right? We've had to learn their language, their commands, their weird interfaces. But ChatGPT changes that. It's letting us interact with technology in a way that feels natural, using our own language and way of thinking.
So instead of us learning to talk to computers, they're finally learning to talk to us.
Exactly. And the implications of that are huge. We're only just beginning to see the effects.
Okay, I am definitely on board with this deep dive now. We're getting into some really fascinating stuff. But first, it really feels like we're on the verge of something big here, like a major shift in how we see technology. One thing that really stuck with me from those research papers you sent was how ChatGPT could make technology feel more like a partner, not just a tool. That's a pretty profound idea.
It really is. And I think it's something we need to explore more. Like when we think about the tools we've always used, hammers, cars, whatever.
Right.
They're basically extensions of our bodies, right? They let us do physical things. But ChatGPT and AI more broadly, that's different. It's like an extension of our minds. It can help us think, learn, create, even solve problems in ways we never could before.
One of the articles talked about how AI could personalize learning, tailor it to each student, especially those who haven't done well in traditional schools. That feels huge.
It's super exciting.
Yeah.
Imagine AI that can figure out how someone learns best, their strengths, their weaknesses, and then adapt to that. Education could be accessible to everyone.
There was this other example that caught my eye, and I'm curious to get your take. One source talked about how ChatGPT can help writers get past writer's block, even give them feedback on their work. Do you see that as legit, like a real way to improve creativity?
I think it's a powerful tool, for sure. But like any tool, it depends how it's used. Some writers might find it super helpful having an AI to bounce ideas off of, to break through those creative barriers.
So it's not replacing human creativity, it's like adding to it.
Exactly. Giving writers new ways to express themselves, to experiment, refine their craft.
But there are always concerns with new tech, right? And the one that comes up a lot is jobs. Could ChatGPT or AI in general end up replacing human workers?
Especially in fields like writing and customer service, yeah.
Exactly. Is that something we should be worried about?
It's a valid concern, definitely. And we need to approach it thoughtfully. Sure, AI can automate some tasks, but it's important to remember, it's still just a tool.
Not some independent force.
Right. It's meant to work with humans, not instead of them.
So it's not us versus them, it's more like us and them.
That's a much better way to put it. The key is figuring out how to leverage the strengths of both. AI is great at things that are repetitive, data-driven, things that need huge computing power. But humans, we bring something different to the table. Creativity, empathy, critical thinking, the ability to make those subtle judgments.
You mentioned co-creation in your notes. What does that actually look like? Working with AI, like side by side?
Think of a musician working with AI to compose a symphony, or an architect using AI to design a building. It's about using AI to enhance our own abilities, not replace them. It's a partnership.
Okay, so it's not robots taking over, it's finding ways to work together, to combine our strengths with AI's power. That's a much more optimistic way to look at it.
It really is. And I think that's an important message. The future of AI isn't set in stone, It's something we're actively shaping.
With every decision we make.
Exactly. Every project, every conversation we have about it. You mentioned earlier how OpenAI is committed to developing AI responsibly and ethically. That's absolutely crucial. We need to make sure AI is developed in a way that aligns with our values, that respects our privacy and benefits everyone.
Okay, this has been so eye-opening. I'm starting to see ChatGPT not just as some cool tech, but as something that could really reshape our world.
Yeah.
But with all this talk about potential, I have to ask, what about the limitations? What can't ChatGPT do?
That's a great question, and one that often gets lost in all the hype. We have to remember, As capable as ChatGPT is, it's still a machine. It doesn't have emotions. It doesn't understand the world the way we do. And it's limited by the data it's been trained on.
So even though it writes like a human, it doesn't actually think like one.
Exactly. And that's a crucial distinction. It can process info, generate convincing text, but it doesn't have our depth of understanding, that ability to connect ideas or come up with truly original thoughts.
One source talked about the risk of it being used to create fake news, or misleading content. Should we be worried about that?
Absolutely. It's something to be aware of. Because it's so good at mimicking human writing, it can be used to create fake news, spread misinformation, even impersonate real people.
So huge potential for good, but potential for misuse too.
Exactly. That's why these conversations are so important, to understand both the possibilities and the limitations, and to think critically about how we use AI and what kind of future we want to build with it.
This is really making me think differently about AI's role in our lives. It sounds like it's not just about the technology, it's about how we choose to use it, how we guide its development and make sure it benefits humanity.
You got it. That's exactly the point.
And that brings us to, I think, one of the most fundamental questions we have to grapple with. What does it even mean to be human in a world with increasingly sophisticated AI?
Whoa, that's a big one. I think we need a minute to unpack that. Yeah, that's a question that'll keep us up at night for sure.
Yeah.
As we move further into this AI age, that question of what it means to be human, that's one of the most interesting parts.
I agree. Going back through all those articles you sent, one thing that kept coming up was this tension between the potential of AI and this fear that it could become too powerful.
That makes sense, right? It's like throughout history, anytime there's a new technology that seems to push the limits of what we thought was possible, people get excited but also kind of scared.
Yeah, totally. Like fire or the printing press. Now it's AI.
There's this quote from one article that I haven't been able to get out of my head. It said, "The biggest fear about AI isn't that it'll become evil. It's that it'll become too smart, too efficient, and leave us humans behind."
Yeah, that fear, it gets at something really deep about how we see ourselves.
Yeah.
We've always thought of ourselves as the smart ones, the creators, the problem solvers. And now we might be creating something that's better than us at all those things.
It's almost like an existential crisis, right?
Definitely.
If AI can think, learn, create, maybe even feel,
Yeah.
then what does that mean for us?
It's the kind of question philosophers have debated for centuries. But with AI, it feels a lot more urgent now. You mentioned singularity in your notes, that idea that AI will eventually surpass human intelligence and everything will change super fast. Do you think that's a real possibility? Something to worry about?
It's definitely a possibility we can't ignore, but it's also important to remember it's just one possibility. The way I see it, we have a choice. We can either approach AI with fear, try to fight it,
Right.
or we can see it as an opportunity, a chance to push our own limits, solve some of the world's biggest problems, create a future where humans and AI work together.
I like that. It's a lot more hopeful. It's not about AI controlling us, it's about us using it for good.
That's it. And that takes a change in how we think. We have to let go of some of our old ideas about what it means to be human and embrace the possibilities AI opens up.
Like what we talked about with education. AI personalizing learning for everyone. That's AI helping us reach our potential, not replacing us.
Exactly. And there are so many other examples. AI could help us cure diseases, fight climate change, create clean energy, even explore space.
So many possibilities. It sounds like the future of AI, it isn't set in stone. We're building it right now.
That's what's both exciting and a little scary. It means we have a responsibility to make sure AI is used ethically, that it benefits everyone.
Thinking about everything we've talked about, I'm struck by the fact that this isn't just a technological change, it's a cultural shift.
Yeah.
It's making us rethink our relationship with technology, with each other, with ourselves even.
You're absolutely right. And that's why these conversations are so vital. We have to talk about these things, engage with these ideas, work together to shape a future where AI helps us, not hurts us.
And I feel like we've barely scratched the surface here. There was so much in those articles, way more than we could cover. What do you think? Where do we go from here?
It's true, there's always more to explore. But I think this has been a great start. We've laid some groundwork, raised some important questions, and hopefully our listeners are now even more curious about this amazing, constantly evolving field.
That's what it's all about. Not having all the answers, but asking the right questions and staying curious. And I have to say, this deep dive has definitely made me more curious about AI and the future we're building.
Me too.
So to everyone listening out there, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going. The future of AI is up to all of us. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, it's been fun.
And until next time, stay curious.